right, everyone, welcome back to Central Coast Disc Golf. This is round one back nine coverage of the Innova Open at the 28th annual Texas State Disc Golf Championship. We're in Houston, Texas. I am Nate Perkins, joined here yet again by my good friend and fellow native Texan Connor O'Reilly.
Super excited to be here out on the bayou and playing disc golf in a sweet property. Used to be a golf course, so some open lines, a lot of out of bounds, and there's a look at that leaderboard. Walk us through hole 10, Nate.
Yeah, it's one of a few really tough par fours here. 720 feet, but you have to shape something off the tee, and you have this low ceiling right here as we approach the middle of the fairway. And again, the OB kind of tapers in around the basket. And one of the things about the OB out here, Connor, is it's hard to tell like where it is. And this is the first time that any of these players are playing this course in competition. And so we don't have a ton of experience on it. And it's really hard to know exactly where that OB is. As you can see, they're only marked with like these little white flags and then some white paint. So hard to really get a gauge.
Yeah, it's a good thing to point out. A lot of times we're used to having our, kind of our asset advertisement walls behind the out of bounds or big stakes or whatnot. And honestly, I noticed a lot of these flags, even the plastic flag part has slid down to the bottom, so there's parts where the out of bounds is really, really hard to see where it's at, and can make a difference on a course as open as this that really makes you pick your comfort shot. Everyone just going with that low driven shot through the gap here. Definitely the ideal play. I've seen some aggressive rollers get through, but I think if you feel confident, that low ceiling shot is the one, and it's going to set you up for continuing to throw another low ceiling.
Yeah, and those are 4 quality drives there. They're all in position to score, and you can see that Robert can't quite get it under that ceiling. And I mean, that's what makes it so difficult, huh? Just that's the ceiling as you approach the green here.
Yeah, and there's some pockets if you can work yourself left, or this forehand opens up the ceiling a bit. But yeah, you see a lot of players have to try to play under that canopy, and it's hard to do, hard to get underneath and get to the basket.
So this is the opening round on Friday, and from about 9 a.m. until about, I want to say like 1 p.m., we kind of had off and on rain, and it was raining pretty heavy at some points, and it was certainly windy the entire time. And as this featured card kind of moves into the back nine, the wind just kind of dies. The sun comes back out.
I mean, look at those flags. They are dead on the basket in the background and this one. And
you almost feel bad for the competitors that had to play at 10, 11, or noon, because it's just completely different scoring conditions. But it seems to happen, somewhat often with tee times, huh?
Yeah, I think with how wind dependent our game is and with how much the conditions can change the grip on the plastic, little things like when you tee off can honestly change the course by 3-4 strokes sometimes in terms of difficulty. And yeah, it looked like it was going to get real nasty around 1, but luckily that wave kind of pushed north of where we were playing. So we didn't have any of the lightning delays that we all came to expect. Gannon slips that one over the rim. His putt's been coming down a little nose down all day, but that's a good start to the back nine. Let's see if he can right the ship and fight his way to under par like the champion he is. Yeah, I feel like with those days where it's supposed to be stormy and it passes, a lot of times once that wave's gone, then it's usually just ideal conditions, and these guys are reaping the benefits of that feature card time. I don't know, I wouldn't hate to see some kind of ratings-based round 1 tee time scheduling in the future of our game, just to kind of group certain players in certain times of day. And, if you want to get that good afternoon weather, you got to play more consistent and work your way up there. What do you guys think about that? Hole 11.
Ooh.
Really tough par 4. Out of bounds line on the right. OB water to the left there. Those mandatories forcing you to the left. Once again, low ceiling off the tee. You can drive one out to the left, or maybe play a big roller to give yourself somewhere in position. Another basket where having a direct sight line and being able to throw a straight shot into the pin, or to give yourself options coming into the pin, is really ideal. This green's going to play a little faster than most of the ones on the course. So if you can play like a mid-range in, you're going to really be happy. Hole 11 actually played as the hardest hole on the course today. Let's
Really?
see if our feature card can grab a birdie.
Oh no, 2 for 2 on the tree you really need to miss.
Oh, Robert catches
Oh,
it as
no.
well. There's no way you could tell me that these guys do this again. Can Anthony redeem the card? No. Are
Oh,
you
no.
serious? You cannot make that up.
OB.
I'm in shock that we just had these 4 players all square the tree up. Man, that
Anthony
is...
wishes he squared it up. He kicked straight left out of bounds.
And this whole showing why it's
Oh,
so
oh,
difficult.
Get back in and look at that. You can barely see that line, even, camera right on top of it.
Yeah, I do want to shout out the grounds crew, though. We kind of notified them that the line was getting spotty in certain high traffic areas, and they went out before the round to try to clean it up. Calvin testing that inside out of bounds line there, but going to be able to walk away with this one. From this one with a par, most likely.
Did you see or hear anyone cutting this hole, going across the OB?
I didn't hear of
Over the
anyone like
dogleg?
laying short and playing across the out of bounds. Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't. I was just curious if anybody did, because it is there. It's possible. It's just pretty tricky.
Yeah, the one play I saw people doing to try to thwart the hole was out to the left over that pond. I saw people playing big turning shots, at least in practice, but I don't think I really saw anyone, unless you were a forehand dominant player like Chandler Kramer. I didn't see anyone really taking that route during tourney play. I think they were just kind of trying to figure out whether it was worth it or not. It's always cool to see the creativity of the players as we prepare for these courses. The course designer always has something in mind, and no matter how thorough you are, there's going to be a couple holes where the players just find a route that you didn't even think of. And that's part of why they're the best in the world. They are always poking and prodding, trying to find the weaknesses of the track.
This would just be a huge par save, huh? Oof. Just needed a couple more rotations on that.
Coming back into the headwind. Gives it enough. Unfortunate bogey start from Anthony here on the back. He's had a lot of birdies, but just he keeps scoring bogeys on the in-between holes, and got to clean it up a little bit, AB. Yeah, just with the narrowing of this green coming in and how fast the ground is, if you are forced into a shot that you don't necessarily love coming in, it can really be a nervy approach.
So I was kind of chatting with Calvin at this point in the round. And just to remind you guys, I was working with the Disc Golf Network as an on-course analyst, so that's part of my job is to get a little intel, and I just was curious. Calvin's traveling around in a van right now and sleeping in the van the majority of the time, but Thursday night before this round, as we had mentioned before, that it was about as hot and humid as we're ever going to experience. And I asked Calvin if he was, able to sleep, and he said, yeah, we went to someone's house and found some AC. So I think that was kind of on par with, I would say about half the van lifers kind of bailed on the
Yeah, if you got the extra funds and I think 74 was our key turning point where, you hit that degree temperature. It's not getting below that. You might get more restful sleep by paying for it either with your relationships or with your hotel.
And so Gannon, a lot of trust in that D2 there, kind of flexing it out over that OB here on the 12th. And Calvin does as well. That needs to swing.
Wow.
Oh, what a stable disc.
Ooh, it catches that little electrical box that you can see has tons of dents in it. And yeah, you really got to test this one over the out of bounds line. You cannot let the wing flip to the right. But if you don't get the disc to flat, it's hard to get all the way to this one.
Wow. That's a nice pushing hyzer from Robert.
Yeah, and I believe he'll have somewhat of a tailwind putting set up. Anthony.
Oh, and that's just getting dragged out into the OB by the slight headwind there.
Yeah, he's going to have to come way back in the fairway. Still probably has 375 into the pin.
Oh, and just like that, he's going to be 6, potentially 7 strokes back of Calvin.
Yeah, and out of the hand, Gannon knows it doesn't stand a chance. Been very interesting to see Anthony and Gannon kind of struggling a little bit here. Not something we expect from these bombers on a course like this.
And not something we really see very often from 25 feet. That's a pretty good up and down from AB from probably 350.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see. Maybe that'll be Calvin's one miss for the day. And on a day like this where it was kind of swirly early for it to calm down and him to finally miss, kind of unexpected. But it happens to the best of us, and doesn't matter how good your putting mechanics are, your mind has to stay sharp and locked in. Look at that slow-mo huck face from Robert. Really cool to see the differing swings on this card. You got Robert kind of a little more of a air bounce style, not a full reach back. Calvin also kind of goes with that half cock reach back, and then you see AB with that huge extension. Another look at the leaderboard. Ezra Aderhold 8 down through 12, currently in the lead.
Drama all the way to the final hole. Kristen to win the Waco Annual Charity Open. She's done it! Kristen to tar.
The 13th is another one of these technical shorter holes mixed in to break up the long bombing side of the course. Mandatory left there to navigate, and just a thick line of stuff on the right that if you flip over into, it's going to be really hard to putt from, even if you're only a couple feet in.
Copperheads.
Yeah, the snakes out here, ticks, all kind of stuff you want to avoid. There's also one last tree bunker on the left side of the green that will block your putt, so there's a couple spots you can't be here.
Oh no. Gannon Burr is just off the mark. You really hate to see it.
As routine as this one is, I feel like the carpet's a little short, and then behind it there's kind of some ruts in the ground. It can make the footing just a little tricky here. You see Calvin kind of re-stepping there.
Hey, good timing, Connor.
Yeah. Thanks, Calvin. Making me look like I know what I'm talking about.
Ooh, he kind of gets on top of that putter right there, but it holds on, and he's got 22 just from the fringe.
Mixing a hole like this in when you've just been shaping shots in the open throwing a lot of big power shots, it can be really tricky. It can throw your timing off, and if the whole course is full of holes like this, you probably feel like you're gonna grab it, but it seems to play a little bit elusive for the distance.
AB going down tempo on another buzz.
Man, I think AB just made me switch my putter play on this one in hole 7, watching him play those down tempo mids.
Hey, sometimes that happens in commentary. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I think if you see something that you feel can give you an advantage, and yeah, I just haven't really seen anyone get long at these baskets, so why not? Robert slips it in the right side. All smiles.
Oh, look at that smile, man. That's great. Just the way that one danced on the rim. Hopefully we get the slow-mo on that one.
Yeah, I really like Robert. He's just a respectful young kid. He works hard, and he's I think just a good representative of the game.
And Calvin getting back on track after 3 pars in a row. It's a good putt from tough footing, and wow, Gannon hitting a nice one from a knee for par, man.
I feel like Gannon should have just went to the knee putt early in the round. I don't know if I've ever seen him miss a knee putt. He seems to be so lethal out of the knee. I know.
Wow.
Now there's a point in his life where I think his foot was broken, and he was in a boot apparently just knee putting all over the place. I think it was that or his knee, one of them. But apparently there was a time in his life where he was on crutches, slinging putts.
And we're getting it. How does this one stay, Connor?
Oh. Dances on the nubs, and Robert. He catches 3 different nubs, sits, tickles of the outside chains. The anticipation you feel on a putt like that, and just that little ramp up in your energy and your nerves it's some of that stuff that keeps you going in the game.
All right, hole 14, par 4, 711 feet. I feel like this is one of the more scoreable holes. It is playing as the 14th most difficult. Few gaps to contend with to get out into the open there, and there is an OB line on the left that kind of prevents you from just throwing that dumb hyzer out there. You have to kind of flatten this drive out a little bit. And another one of those holes where, the player who can throw far on a low flat line has a slight advantage. Case in point, this man right here. No one's, I don't think, ever been able to throw further on a low ceiling line than Calvin Heimburg. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, when I saw Calvin actually one of the practice days, I guess it was his first day out there, I told him, I was like, "What? This is the Calvin Heimburg special course, huh?" And he was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll find out." And I think he's found out for sure. And Robert leaking to that out of bounds line you talked about. While you do want to get out left through this gap, like Nate said, you do need to push this one flat and test these 2 bushy trees, or I guess a little cluster of 6 of them. But unfortunate there for Anthony. He was so close to clearing to the promised land. Yeah, as long as you beat the gap here, you feel like you're going to give yourself a putt for birdie.
So I believe Calvin threw Destroyer. Robert throwing the Warbird there. D2 from Gannon, and AB is throwing the Venom. I believe that's a new overstable 12 speed from Discraft.
Yeah, I think it's one of those discs that we're going to see Anthony utilizing quite a bit this year. I believe it's also going to be his tour series. So look for that to come out soon in a sweet plastic. Yeah, everyone going fast driver here. No fairways you're going to really see off of this tee. This one, I think you want to push it out like Nate said, and if you can give yourself, the further you can get, you can even open up that backhand approach. A lot of times if you're shorter, that forehand is really favorable, but if you can push it out to where Gannon did, the straight backhand comes into play. Looks like that rock out of Calvin.
Is that tracking?
Ooh.
Oh, just fades out a little early, circles edge.
A little bit lower, that thing definitely would have contested with the chains.
Just kind of an unfortunate little finish here. I was actually standing right next to Robert's disc and just basically straddling the line. And just that last bit of ground play, I believe Philo likes to call it the knurl. Just kind of knurled OB. We're still looking for a different name for that. Or if you guys like it, we'll just continue on with the philology.
I like it. You guys let us know. Calvin, once again, grabbing birdie. Gannon able to cash as well. He's been keeping it clean on the back, starting to right the ship of a brutal, kind of unfocused front.
Or the philosophy?
Ooh, now we're talking. You owe Nate royalties for that one, Philo. Anthony cashing it in. It's been a tale of birdie bogey for Anthony the whole round, and he's going to need to birdie out to put himself in position to be back towards the top tomorrow. There's some thick rough out here, so certain sides of the green you're going to have to get tricky, and yeah.
What an unfortunate bogey. He really didn't throw.
You think the
Really
Poison
a bad
Ivy
shot.
shirt, the Poison Ivy shirt right there would have gave him some extra putting power, but maybe next time, Robbie.
Leaves of 3, you leave it be.
Indeed. And if you're from anywhere in the southern United States, I'm sure you're well familiar with that plant. And if you're one of those disc golfers who's not affected, then I'm jealous of you. I'm also kind of jealous of the swing that this guy displays. So clean.
There's
Such
a
a great
couple
extension.
disc golfers. Sorry, Connor.
No.
But there's a couple disc golfers out there that I believe Chandler Fry actually had to pull out of the Open at Austin from a Poison Ivy incident on his knee. And as we all know, Paul Macbeth has experienced some terrible bouts with Poison Ivy.
Yeah, this whole Texas stretch, Waco, Open at Austin, and here in Houston, you're going to have a lot of it, and the leaves are starting to shoot off. 15's a classic power forehand hole. If you got it, you're going to have an advantage on the rest of the field. Push the disc flat. Try to beat those last two Guardians and fade in. Calvin contesting with those two Guardians, but gets a nice forward kick off of them.
Calvin is a player that he was never known for his forehand, and honestly, he wasn't throwing them, it seemed like, for a few years, and now all of a sudden he's developed this really impressive 400-foot plus power hyzer game.
Yeah, and it really opens up the courses if you can get that forehand out into that 400 or a little more zone. It can really just let you play more shots on hyzer, and I think as a professional, the more shots you can release on hyzer, it feels like the easier it is to control your outcomes.
Oh, that's a really fun style to watch.
Robert pushes this one a little flat.
Man.
Pushes to the backside, showing off that power that he has. Going with the hooligan discs yeet.
Really?
Yep.
So does Lone Star make that?
Yeah, Lone Star actually is the manufacturer for hooligan discs, so I believe they have a couple different molds. He's also putting with the Cash, their new putter. So I know Robert is one of those players who's playing for Lone Star and hooligan. Gannon makes short work of that, takes no time to cash that straddle putt in.
Getting himself back to even par. Only 9 strokes back of Calvin. Make it 10.
Calvin is rolling, you guys, and he has 3 holes left.
He's the first one to 10 under par, Connor.
And he doesn't have a bogey yet. He's playing some impeccable golf. Keeping it bogey-free on a course as OB-laden as this is always going to put you in a good position, and especially if you're a player who's able to access all the birdies the way that Calvin Heimburg is. Robert still sticking around under par. Gannon fights back to even. Let's see if our entire card can finish under, as we have 3 to play. I like to call Gannon String Bean. That was my nickname I gave him a couple years ago.
That's so good, Connor. I like to tell people that when I watch Gannonburg play, I can see him growing in front of my eyes.
Every time he steps up next to me, he like stretches his neck out and lets me know he's taller than me. I'm like, I get it, Gannon. It's okay.
He's a giant. Hole 16, another. I feel like a lot of the par 3s out here have a similar kind of shape to them. They're left to right shaping holes around the 300-foot mark, but they're not quite forehand shots, are they?
Yeah, they're left to right, but they barely move left to right, like Nate's saying, in a way that really a straight backhand with a touch of movement right is going to be the ideal play here. So, yeah, I think you can really pick your poison on these holes. I think the ground play of the backhand is going to match these holes better than the forehand in all cases, really. And this is another perfect shot out of Anthony.
And once again, that's that buzz that he's just going down tempo on, and really impressive. I mean, there will always be a place for technical holes like this on the tour.
Absolutely. Gannon just a little overturned on this putter, and I think that's one of the tricks playing that slower disc here. It's easy to get flat on it and for it to turn, and I don't know, it's one of those holes that makes you think you need to get right, but you barely do. Robert's going to need this one to stick on the ground. There's some, good branch.
Get out of here.
Good branch
Chupacabra hitting and rolling back toward the pin.
Yeah, if he skips another 10, 15 feet in there, he might not have a putting window. Calvin gives that one a respectable run, even though he doesn't necessarily need to at this point. He's sitting pretty. Gannon off that knee, just catches left chains. Anthony getting all of the short techie ones with that buzz.
That's 4 in a row for AB to get back to 5 under par. I think he's 5 under par with 5 bogeys.
Yeah, I think there's only like 1, maybe 2 pars on his card right now. Anthony Barela does not have a brake system in his vehicle. It's only gas and nitro.
You know, I was in New Zealand for 5 weeks, and I, like everyone, that I started calling it petrol. I literally said petrol after I got back to the U.S.
I love it. I love immersing ourselves in the different cultures and the way sports bring the world together and give us a common language. And I always just love the diversity of the English language. I always love hearing it from different countries.
You keen on throwing a buzz here, Connor?
Oh, I reckon.
Yes.
And we have hole 17, out of bounds line to the right. You got to play a power shot through this gap right here. No other way around it. You can go cutting roller out to the left. Really, I think the ideal play is to push it way out left to where the drone's flying and skip to the open where you don't have these trees to navigate in the approach shot. You just have a wide open forehand. But if you do just want to cram the disc down there and get a lot of distance straight, you are going to have a lot shorter upshot, though you will have a kind of awkward corner of out of bounds to fly over coming in. Oh, and that one needed to clear the branch to have any chance at birdie. If Anthony can score from there, you guys will have witnessed some insanity.
Oh, look at the angle that Robert took on that approach, and just needed to miss that last one, and that cut roller was headed out into the promised land on that left side.
Yeah, no out of bounds here left. Just a rough line that's way out of play almost. Calvin gets a nice lift from the wind out of the hand, but
we're still going.
Fighting.
Goodness, man.
Yeah, just the power Calvin gets out of that short reach back is just, it's impressive every time you see it. Again, a little more traditional full reach back. Hammering flat on a very overstable disc, and it fights out nicely. He's hanging out with Calvin even a little further.
Those are massive shots with the gap they have to fly through.
Yeah, that is position 1 there. Anthony trying to go standout roller, but just rolls up the trunk of that tree and drops down. I couldn't tell if that one was going to test the out of bounds on the right or not. I think he's probably pretty happy just having a chance at par. Robert comes out low and just gets gobbled up by the clover patch. Some spots in this course you skip a lot. Some spots you do not get any ground play, so it can be hard to judge sometimes.
Oh, slow down.
Anthony going with that clear Raptor again, I believe. Puts himself down long.
Yeah, 45-footer for his par. And the sun is back out, and this place, it turns into a sauna. I mean, with the rain that we had in the morning. Oh, what a misfire
Wow.
from Gannon.
The wind was coming from that direction, so it probably just held the disc up, but to see kind of a disc selection error like that out of Gannon is very rare, and Calvin just a bit fluffed on this forehand.
He was kind of struggling with the decision on that approach. He was forced into this that awkward shot. I believe that's Draco that he's throwing there. And
Yeah, you don't often see Calvin throw steep angles like that. He's one of these
Yeah.
guys who's made a living off of kind of those narrow, flat angles. Gannon putting the gusto on that one, just not able to drop it. Anthony steps
Wow.
it up into the heart.
That's
Definitely
huge.
Quite a bit of uphill there. And yeah, that was a crazy par out of Anthony. So all over the place. Definitely a little bit of relief on his face you could see after dropping that putt.
oh, just inches from 11 under.
Gannon into that headwind, getting it up quick, doing his kind of becoming a signature of his almost, that quick release, pull back the hands behind the body. Feels like he hates it, but you love it every time because it's going in.
And we've got a bit of a walk up the hill.
What beautiful lighting, the sun coming through, shining on Anthony's face and his putter as it finds those chains.
Bink.
You gotta love the artistic nature of the game sometimes, and the way that Central Coast captures all the angles for us.
Oh, and this is just a sweet finishing hole. Sweet as they would say down in the southern hemisphere. And it is a par 3, 405 feet. It probably plays more like 420, 430, slightly uphill. And there is OB all around. And it can be tough to get this one close. Even the hyzers will tend to kind of roll back down this hill a bit. And
Yeah.
we're throwing over the greens bayou here.
I think if every player in the field had one put my disc in the bullseye token, they'd probably pitch it on this hole, because you do not want to be putting on this green. You hit the cage, roll away out of bounds is almost imminent.
No, that's just the saddest way to finish your round.
It really is.
Calvin stretching that destroyer out a little too straight, and there's AB's hyzers, and you can see he goes from about a 22-footer to a 40-footer pretty quick.
Yeah, and a hole like this can be frustrating. You feel like you do your job as a player, and sometimes the ground play just isn't favorable. Robert playing a little more flat. This one looks great.
Oh, what a shot.
Yeah, really trust the disc not working left on him too much, able to push it straight and play a very direct line. I think if you can come into this hill a little flatter and less spiky, your rollaway chances are probably mitigated quite a bit.
Ooh, Gannon getting this one up in the air.
Sky wide hyzer.
Oh, wow.
Those are discs. That felt way right out of the hand, but put the height on it. Calvin, wow, that thing's sad. Those ones are scary. You never know.
And just another putt from that almost the same distance, 17, and hits the band on another uphill kind of 45-footer.
Calvin had a couple more close ones. He had he had that like 13 almost in the bag. He's just really separating himself on this course. Gannon able to finish with a birdie. That clean back nine brings him to 1 under par. Bit out of sorts for our Open at Austin champion, and some local love. Well deserved for Mr. Robert Burridge. Solid round, Robbie.
And Gannon did get himself back to under par, though. 4 under. Clean 4 under on the back nine. Respectable. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the course after seeing the full 18. You think the Disc Golf Pro Tour should return to Houston, Texas in future years?
You guys' opinion matters. I think how the course is viewed and how it's enjoyed by the fans is definitely important. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. A bunch of different styles here. Robert touching the poison ivy. Got
And the dry bag switch. He dropped it into the other hand. That was
smooth.
Really had a ton of style there, and really nothing like a Central Coast slow-mo. It's really an honor to be on the mic with you here, Connor, for this production and taking a look at our leaderboard. Calvin Heimburg leading the way, 10 under. We're going to be watching Joel Freeman, Kyle Klein, and Ezra Aderhold. 4 kind of completely different play styles.
Super excited to watch these guys attack a tough, power-laden track with some technicality mixed in.
And thank you guys for joining us here on Central Coast Disc Golf. I'm Nate Perkins with Connor O'Reilly, and we will see you tomorrow for round 2.